Hello everyone and welcome to the 500 sub special video for ReplayWorks. My name is Andrew and I want to thank everyone who has subscribed to the channel so far in this past year. I want to thank everyone who has left a like or comment, any suggestions, any feedback, any constructive criticisms as well. I appreciate all of it and anyone that ever watched my videos. I do like seeing people comment, and I do like responding as much as possible to those comments as well. So, what are we doing here today? Today we are going to be talking about a commander format that I thought of for the Gundam card game. It's a little bit different from what one might have thought for a commander format. I know that there is the free-for-all format and the 2v2 format for Gundam, but those are more like constructed, like pure constructed, if you will, as opposed to what you could find in a regular commander format. So, to get into this, let's talk about what actually makes up a commander format, right? Now, it's a multiplayer experience that's outside of your standard format events. Sometimes, like Magic the Gathering, you get to break through and be fully recognized by the company. It started as EDH, for those of you unaware, and then it became commander format officially, supported by Wizards with all of the product releases every year, etc., right? For Yu-Gi-Oh, we have something called the domain format, which has your deck master, and then of course the singleton deck. And then we have, for Digimon, since this is a Bandai game, we have the Chosen Ones format, which I remember I saw a couple posts online, and I just kind of like Googled it and found this image of you have your tamer, and then you have your rookie Digimon Boo. That's your deck, right? So what are the commonalities, right? It's multiplayer focused in the sense that it can be a usual 1v1, it can be 2v2 or free for all in that sense, right? Magic Commander generally I feel is like a 4-player game where everyone's just trying to politic each other to, I guess, not die, and then you kill the other person who was politicking a little bit too much, right? And then from there we have singleton deck building, right? One copy per unique card in the deck, which makes it you got to make sure that you have the right choices in your deck, because you can't just play a 4 of 15 cards in the deck, say, right, and then just go from there, right? And then the most important commonality between all these is that you have selected cards that become your representative of what your deck wants to do, what you want to do as a player, how you express yourself, for your avatar, I guess, with the ability to replay these cards with a specific cost involved, right? That's I would say those are the 3 things that go into what makes a commander format for any card game, right? So, for Gundam card game, how can we make this work, right? How do we adopt it, and what should it be focused around, right? And I ran through the list of, okay, early on, I remember seeing a post about okay, let's do pilot format, or pilot focus, right? Well, until we have thousands and thousands of cards, right, then you're gonna pick the cards that have the most link units, right, or have the best generic non-one linked ability. So you're gonna end up playing Amuro, Kira, those guys are the 2 on the top of my head that have generic pairs, right? So that's one of the things I saw in terms of the feedback from when someone proposed that early on throughout the game. All right, fair enough, right? Then we have the unit focused, right? In that sense of, okay, you have a big unit, big guy. What do you do with it? Well, in this game, I think that the units themselves, unless you have the specific palette to do the link, they're not going to be as impactful, or they're not designed to be like commanders are in Magic, or like tamers in Digimon, right? Where those guys, they come out, they stay on the board, they do a passive ability, and they'll persist throughout the game. Pretty good, hard to get rid of, right? Unit focus are going to come out, you have to wait a certain amount of time for them to come out. And unlike Magic, where we don't have theoretically infinite scaling mana, right? We have 10 resources and 5 EX resources, and that's about it, right? So it makes it a little bit tougher when you think about unit focus in terms of what the deck wants to do, right? And then from there, what do we combine the 2? Unit and palette focus. Well, suffice to say, I think you kind of get both of those issues combined with those 2 above, because if your pilot and link unit are really good, then you're just gonna be able to spam those pretty well throughout the game. And then at a certain point, you run into an issue where you can't pay for them anymore because you have to add a tax to this kind of stuff. Otherwise, you're just gonna instantly spam Gundam Amuro or Last Shooting Gundam and Amuro for the entirety of the game. That's what my thoughts are, you know, in terms of like why I go down this list of like, okay, well, we talk about pilots, units, then we talk about combining the both of them, just like in Chosen Ones, you know. At least that's where I'm at right now. So I thought, why not make the game more like a war, right? We don't focus on a single strong unit. We focus on, this might be a little bit like a board game type proposal. We focus on protecting your bases. Now, that is the goal, defend your bases, right? And the way I'm going to propose it is that you have a space and an earth zone with a specific base inside. We don't have one base anymore. We have two zones that we're trying to defend with the specific base for them. Now, this is going to actually use a thing on the card that nothing else in the game references as of this recording by the end of set 4. Nothing has referred to anything as space or earth, the trait on the card. Just like, you know, dating myself here. But this is where I want to be. I want to have, okay, we have two zones. We have two bases. That is what you're defending, right? Rather than picking your avatar, your representative, you are the commander. You have to defend your bases. Okay? So, with this concept, you have, like I said, the two zones, space and earth, and each respective zone, only the units that have that attribute can be placed into those zones. For example, I'm just going to pick up a random card from a Xeon Star deck, right? The Droxy that's in there can only be in space, so you can only go in space. Zaku 2 has both traits, so he can go to either or, right? That's just like the gist. We'll talk about more of that as we continue, but like in terms of setup, right? Start of the game, we're going to have each player reveal their bases, and they're going to have one base in the space trait, one base in the earth trait. Now, the example right here is white base. It can be either space or earth. So you can go ahead and put it in either space or earth, but the other base card has to be, not white base, but it has to be the representative of whatever attribute it is, right? So if you put white base in space, you have to have something that has an earth attribute in that zone, right? So theoretically, you can also pick like Archangel, because I believe that also goes to the both, technically, right? So that's like one of the changes. Now we're gonna go right off into the deep end in terms of some other gameplay changes throughout this video. So please listen all the way through, and then kind of like leave thoughts at the end as I explain what the format should look like or be. Now, big thing about commander formats that I actually forgot to include is color identity, right? Domain format kind of has that to a certain extent. In this case, color identity represents what colors you can play in the deck itself. In Magic, it's the printed mana pips on the card through the text or on the cost itself. I believe Digimon is probably just the color combination of the guys that you choose. And then Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the attribute, the archetype, and the monster type, right? So in this case, plain and simple, it's whatever colors are on your space and earth bases is the colors that you play. And in the previous example, white base and Archangel, that's white and blue. Done. It's just like, normal deck building in Gundam, but at least you're essentially revealing to everyone playing like what colors you're playing from the bat, right? Now, for example, if you pick like Corsica as your earth base and you pick white base as your space base, then you're locked into mono blue, period. That there's no second color for you. You get mono blue. So that's the consideration for the color restriction. Now, in terms of attacking shields, well, in terms of attacking shields, is the same thing, but the difference is that when the base is destroyed, the card doesn't go to the discard pile, go to the trash. It goes face down to indicate that the base is destroyed. And after that, the shield area can be attacked in that respective zone, and then you have normal shield rules applied, right? That part doesn't change. The number of cards in the shield zone will change, but pretty much when one base is destroyed, you're free to attack the shield area no matter what. So you can target down one, either space or earth or both if you need to, and then just start picking away at the shields from there, if you so choose. It just, I guess, depends on the politics of the game and what kind of cards you have in your deck, right? Then from here, the reason why the base doesn't go to the trash is because we're going to add a repair phase. So this is a new phase that will be after the resource phase, wherein the turn player, if they have a destroyed base, they turn it face up. Then at that moment, the player can choose to pay the cost of the base. That's going to be known as the repair costs, right? Now, we're going to have to add a tax to that. So I'll probably just add like +1 resource for every other time it's been destroyed. That way it's not like too insane. So let's use Corsica, right? Actually, no, we'll talk about, let me just do the rest of the first. So when you pay the repair costs, the deploy effects of the base trigger, right? You do the when deploy abilities. If you don't, it's just in play, but you don't get any deploy abilities, right? Now, what does this mean? Every single base in the game has a deploy trigger, which is to add a card from your shield area to your hand. You can forego this by not paying the cost and just flipping it face up. What this means is that you're always going to have a perpetual base in the field, so we're killing aggro to a certain extent, and then you're optionally allowed to get a card back if you need it, if you need the card from the trigger, or if they have a deploy ability that says like when on your turn, do blah 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 blah, right? So that's the thing I want to like emphasize, where it's not like, okay, you destroy it, then okay, you get the base back up and you do all the deploy effects again. Now I want it to be like you have the option to do it, and then if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. You just get the base back, right? So in that case, the example we have is Corsica is destroyed. Corsica goes face up. The player chooses to pay 3 resources because this is the first time that Corsica was destroyed. So now we will do the effect, which is to add a shield to hand and then deploy a Tallgeese token. So, you're never going to see the Leo tokens, but at least you get the Tallgeese every turn. Now, that's just a very simple example. If you have both bases destroyed for some reason when it's back to your turn, you can choose either or. You can choose none. You can choose both if you want 2 cards in hand and have so much resources to burn. So it's really up to you in that sense. But at the bare minimum, again, you're gonna get the base back just to kill aggro, right? So now let's talk about the zones itself. I mentioned that units that have that trait can only exist in that trait. So what about moving between zones? Right? I don't want it to be where you have a unit that's stuck in space even though it could go to Earth. In this case, during the player's main phase, you can pay 1 resource to move an active, friendly unit from your space zone to your Earth zone, or vice versa, however you feel, only if they have that trait. Right? So you gotta ask yourself, do you want to pay the 1? You can move it over. Now, I also have a really good example of that one of my friends brought up to me. We'll talk about it at the end. But that's in terms of like, yes, you can move them across the field from each other. Okay. In this case, right, I have Xiong. I have Xiong, I put it into space, but because it only has the space trait, because it has legs, it cannot move to the Earth zone at all. Right? I'm sure that when we get perfect Xiong, I hope that can go to the Earth zone, because that has legs. Jokes aside. Next example, we have the Sharazaku 2. It's in the Earth zone, but because it has the space trait as well, it can also move to the space zone by paying 1. Right? That's it. That's if I really want to like attack the space zone or reinforce the space zone or whatever have you. You can go from there. Alright? So, in terms of combat, got a few points here. The bases or units in space can only be attacked by enemy units in space. The bases and units on Earth can only be attacked by enemy units on Earth. Pretty simple, right? You can only attack what's in that specific zone, and then you have, if you have a unit on Earth, it can't attack a unit in space. Yeah, unless there's a really specific keyword that like destroys a card that has a space trait or something really specific that might happen. But as of right now, we keep it simple. If you're in that zone, you can only attack the things in that zone, and you cannot cross attack to the other zone. You have to move over and punch that from there. Okay, now we have deck building rules, right? We've got a no commander format. It's gonna be commander format without some like wonky deck building rules. Now we're gonna have 60 main deck cards plus your 2 base cards. That's gonna be 1 space and 1 earth base, right? So 60 is a pretty good one. It's a little bit higher than normal. See how that goes. The main deck cannot contain base cards because you always have the 2 bases that are your representative colors, your representative bases. You have no cards that can contain bases. I guess I'll probably just say you can't play Financier to create an EX base. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I could also come up with a ruling that's like, yeah, you can play Financier. It just follows the normal rules where it creates the EX base, and then the next turn you flip up your destroyed base to replace the EX base. That's like I literally just saw that actually as I just said it. So, we'll figure that one out as we cross that bridge. If there's a lot of Financier stands, I can go either way, to be honest. Now, the main deck can only contain maximum 2 copies of a unique card for now. This is mainly because I feel like we don't have enough versions of characters for me to say, yeah, you can only play 1 Amuro, 1 Kira. We don't have like the other colors to supplement that. If we hit a point wherever we have like 4 different Amuros, 4 different Kiras, and yeah, no, we can do 1 copy of a unique card at that point. We don't need to do that crutch. In this case, 2 I think is a fair deal. We cut everything in half in terms of what a normal playset is. So you're gonna, you can probably max out if you need to. Okay. Now we have a lot of gameplay rule changes. So bear with me. I underlined everything here that's different from the normal one. Start of the game. Place the top 8 cards into the shield area, not 6. So you do have a little bit more shields because this is a multiplayer game. Another thing to consider, if I'm so inclined, we could probably like extend it out based on the number of players. But this is where the feedback comes in. This is where anyone who's willing to test this out, IRL, keep them coming, because that would be fantastic if anyone actually wanted to try this out in real life. Now, during the main phase, this one I feel could be necessary in a multiplayer game. You may pay 3 resources to draw a card. You can. I actually got this inspiration from the Power World card game. On the cards, on the resources there, it actually does have a thing where it says you can pay 3 resources to draw a card once per turn. So I got rid of the once per turn thing. I say you can just draw, because I figure if given the rules, if this wasn't here, then everyone would just play blue, and then that's the only deck that has draw power. So by virtue of itself, it's just gonna end up outpacing everybody. So I figured, well, what's the way to even the field? Is that just let everyone else draw cards. It's not a big deal. And I think, with enough players going around, someone's gonna be able to like check someone. That's how I feel. All right. Next is the combined number of allied units in the space and Earth zone is 8. So you can have 4 Rezels and 4 Hyakuren in the space zone with no units in the Earth zone. That is, actually no, technically you can't have 4 and 4 because of my other rule where you only have 2 and 2. So egg on my face. You can have 8 Zaku 2s of all different types of varieties in the space zone, right? And then nothing in the Earth zone, right? That's how it is. Or you can have 6 in space, 2 on Earth, etc., etc. As long as the total number of units that you have in play doesn't break 8, you're good. That's what it is. I didn't want to like restrict it where you could only have a certain amount in one zone, and that kind of like, if you have like only 4 on Earth and 4 in space, that's the max period, then it kind of like hampers it, where if you just want to do all Earth stuff, or if you want to like alpha strike on Earth, you wouldn't be able to do it with that rule. So I figured, okay, make the total 8 so it's like flexing. And in terms of setup, I think it's going to be pretty easy to like separate them in real life, because just like in Lorcana, the way those locations work is that you have the location out, then you just put a card underneath it or like below it to indicate that's in that zone. So yeah, basically communicate, because this is gonna be a big field type zone. All right, and then the last one, this is more like a clarification, is that you can deploy a unit to your zone, and then later throughout the turn, you can move it to the other zone by paying the 1. That is absolutely fine. I don't see an issue with that. Even though it can't attack, it still comes into play active. So that's like that's a thing that you can kind of do if you're so inclined. To continue along for effects and targeting, right? Palette and unit effects that target a unit must choose a unit in the same zone. For example, the Baku, the support effect, can only target one of your allied units in the same zone the Baku is in. Other example, the G-Quux, that deals 3 damage on deploy, can only deal 3 damage to an enemy unit in the same zone that it is in, right? So that is something I wanted to like point out. The Baku actually could work out where, actually no, you can't move it afterwards. So yeah, you could. Actually, let's go Buster Gundam. Buster Gundam, that's a good one. You do Buster Gundam, and then you do the support ability with the guy in its zone. You can then it reactivates, and you pay the 1, move it to the other zone, support something else in another zone. That is a thing you can do. Yeah, I think like that like that should be pretty clear. Like just like attacking, you can only mess with the zone itself, right? Command cards, these can target any zone, any unit, as long as it's the required unit on the card, right? So close combat can target a unit in space or Earth. Doesn't matter who's. Well, you can't target your own, but any enemies in any zone, you're good to go, because commands, they don't specify anyway, until we hit the point when they have a weirdly specific like target a unit with space attribute or Earth attribute, right? So I guess when we colony drop Australia, that's when we're gonna see that pop up, right? So that's command cards target anything, boom, and then any effects that target all units will affect all units in the zone. So for example, in Citizens Take a Stand, it will give all of your allied units or friendly units +2 AP, right? Wing 0 will target everyone's yeah, it would. It does say all. It would target everyone's units that is 5 or less. So someone break that effect, and let me know how that goes. Was all range attack, same thing. Everyone that's like not linked gets pinged down, right? Stuff like that. Okay, just because like if it has all, we're just gonna put all. Again, unless they specify at a certain point when they say like all units with space or all units on Earth or Australia gets takes the damage, right? So that's the effects and targetings. And then for any other general multiplayer rules, there is the link for the free-for-all rules that Bandai put up. So that is going to be interactions with other players. It should still be applicable, but if you see any contradictions that might not work out to this format, because to be honest, I haven't combed through the entire comprehensive rules for that format, please, comment, email the replay contact at gmail.com, replayworks contact at gmail.com, or just call me on Facebook. Just I see I'm on the Facebook group, so you can just go ahead and message and ask about that there. Or if you know me in real life, you can just ask me in person if you see me around, and I'll probably say good question, and I'll think for a second, and I'll probably like either come up with a quick answer, or I'll have to like debate it out of like what's the best, because like I'm pretty flexible. I'm not super rigid about these, like how this format should be, because it's just kind of like the first incarnation. So yeah, we can talk it out, no biggie. All right, now we have some questions from my friends. This is a very, very good example, right? So the new Banshee Norn, or only Banshee Norn, when it's in space, right? Let's say you have the Redahay link and everything like that. You declare an attack, you destroy the base, right? Then you use the effect to restand it. You pay 1 resource to move it to the Earth zone, and attack a rested Earth unit. Now, does that work? Does it work in the sense of like, can you do that? Or would it be if you started combat in a certain zone, you stay in that zone? The answer is there's no attack phase specifically like Yu-Gi-Oh! So you can attack an Earth unit. There's no rule that I will have that will force you to only have combat in one zone. So you're good to do that. You could be a madman and attack first in space, bring him to Earth, attack in Earth, reactivate, pay the 1, bring him back to space. You can go ahead, because what happens is that, like, I guess if you want to like kill stuff specifically in the zone, and you have to you want to like bounce between. I don't see an issue with that. That's fine. It would be the same as if you had one zone and he's just swinging everything, right? It's just a matter of you paying the extra 1 to make sure that he's in a specific zone and he jumps back and forth, right? Okay, now, as you might have noticed, there were a couple things on this list that had a little asterisk on it. So the asterisk rules are stuff that I want feedback on. I am open to feedback. I am open to any playtesting or any engagement in terms of challenging or constructive criticism for these, right? And just to list them out: 60 main deck cards. Is it too little or is it too much? That's what I'm getting a sense of. 60 is a good starting point because it's a little bit more than the normal, but because we're only doing the 2 copies of a card, I want to get feedback on how constrictive on deck building it is, right? Now, related to that is containing the max of 2 copies per unique card. 2 is half of 4, so I think it's okay. I don't really want it to be just constructed again. I want to see some like tough choices in terms of deck building, just like in Commander. And eventually, I do hope that as the card pool increases, it can go down to 1 copy of card. But that's like not there yet in terms of like how many unique cards we have that are actually good, or have enough pilots to go around, right? I think that's the biggest issue. The pilots for links is very restrictive in the sense that we only have 1 pilot for majority of the named links, right? Except for Suletta. Like, I don't even think we're gonna see like another Mikhail ever again. Like guys like that, like poor Chris or Bernie. So I digress. That's like my concern, is that going down to 1 can be really restrictive, but let's start at 2. Let's see where we go. Right. Next, the main phase thing of pay 3 resources, draw a card. Right. Can you abuse it? Please do. Show me how to explain and do the abusing, and then tell me, okay, Andrew, you gotta ease up on that shit, or does it not really impact it at all? That's what I'm very curious on. All right, next is the combined allied units, space and earth. 8 is again a little bit more than the normal 6, and I think 4 and 4 split. If you want a nice even number, works out pretty well. But yeah, I think if deck size increases, maybe field increases, but I think 8's a good starting point again. And then the pilot unit affects the targeted zone. Targeted unit has to be the same unit in the same zone, right? Let me know how that feels. If it needs to extend out to the other zones, I mean, systematically, it could make sense because there's nothing on the card that would stop it. But in terms of theming, it might feel a little bit weird. So that one's also we probably would want to chat about it. And then I guess the one I literally just thought about is 10 resources too little? Do we need to increase that? Can we all have extra resources lying around? Do we want to go to 12 or 15? Right? I think as the main deck increases, increasing the resource deck appropriately is fine. But in that case, I want to not touch that for now, just with the current card pool where we are at. See how just playing 10 feels. I feel like it's just gonna be that games would go to 10 resources. But the question is, how much longer after we go to 10 does it continue and persist, right? Does it become a slog? And if it does, let me know, because we don't have that much draw power. This isn't Magic where we can just play cards that draw you a million cards, or Digimon also does the same thing, or Yu-Gi-Oh, right? We have one card that draws you 2 cards, and then like that's it. So I'm always concerned about the card draw in terms of card economy. I would hate if it ends up in like top deck mode. So yeah, and the result of that is that I hate where it's like, okay, well, if it's in top deck mode, then we can't really play out a good like combo turn because we need 11 resources, right? We'll see what we'll see. Like I don't know at this point. I don't have enough data points to conclusively say if it's too much or too little. But I will say that any feedback, any testing, any conversation is 100% appreciated, because this is something that this is like, I guess, like the first submission into the community that I'm doing, and I didn't want to make a Facebook post about it and just leave it at that. I kind of want to have it in the video. This way anyone who stumbles upon it can stumble upon it and not get buried by the Facebook wall. So I feel like, you know, most times things on Facebook get buried anyway, but at least here the video exists for anyone that stumbles upon it later on, you know. But with that, I have the video here. This is kind of like the core of the rules, and I guess where the current initial discussion will be for the foreseeable future. I'm also working on a little Notion document to kind of have the same stuff that's in this video that you see here and that I've talked about, just in a readable form, if you just want to have it as a quick reference without having to listen to my voice or skim through this, etc., etc., right? So the biggest thing for this, and this is the most important part, I don't have a name for this. I really don't. My document is called the Untitled Gundam Commander format, and in my brain I called it UGC format, and in my notes I call it that, and it's stuck now. So I don't think I can get away with just calling it UGC format. So please help me find a potential name for this format that's not just called Gundam Commander format, GCF, because it's technically not a commander because you're printing the bases, right? So please, like, if UGC format sticks, then God, I suck at naming. So yeah, that one I think anyone can throw their hat in the ring. You don't have to test this format. You can just give me the reaction to what you think it should be called, and we'll figure it out from there. But this one, yeah, I'm kind of at an impasse because again, I'm stuck with it. It's in my notes. I call it that as whenever I reference it. So yeah, UGC format is the potential name for the foreseeable future until I find a better name that feels right. So with that being said, thank you all for watching. This has been a great year, you know, for Gundam. It's gonna be even better with Set 5 coming out, where I get my Shining Gundam, so I can now play G Gundam and never play anything else ever again. So that's gonna probably just be another red-white build. But before all that comes out, this is what I came up with. This is my 500 subscriber special, and I want to thank everyone who has subscribed to the channel, watched the video, left a comment, said to me in person that you like watching my videos or that you watched my video. Even just that means a lot. So if you are gonna experiment with this format, feel free, go ahead. Like I don't need to hold anyone back if they want to try it out. If they want to tweak anything, just let me know in terms of how you felt and what you have experienced, because I think that's really important for feedback. Like, you as a player and your player experience matters. So that's it for this video. I have a lot more ideas down the pipeline, but just trying to figure out like the best way to do it. This is one of them. And yeah, if I have any reservations on anything else I'm working on, you know, I'll probably just figure it out, then post a video about like the initial concept, just to do something like this again. All right, thank you everyone for watching, and let's have a great second year for the channel. We'll see you in the next one.